almost half of the prisoners who returned from the war go back to prison, and from there, they are sent back to war against Ukraine. According to the Russia Behind Bars Foundation, at least 50,000 former prisoners who received a presidential pardon for killing Ukrainians are now free.
By the end of March, those who were recruited in September will be released. They will be pardoned, and that will be the end of it. No one else will return from the war. They will be there until the end. This has been in force for about a year, and now it is being introduced into the criminal code and the code of criminal procedure.
Putin called the murderers, robbers and rapists recruited for Russia's war against Ukraine the elite in his address to the Federal Assembly. Russian mobilized and contract soldiers are at the front indefinitely while prisoners are returned to Russia. Many are reoffending. Siren Media journalists have calculated that as for the end of 2023, members of the so-called special military operation have broken the law at least 83 times. More than 50 Russians have died at their hands, but the Kremlin is not embarrassed by such figures. In several Russian regions, the Russian Ministry of Education has introduced retraining programs for those who took part in the war against Ukraine at pedagogical universities, according to the Center for National Resistance.
By personal example, they should conduct national patriotic education of young people, agitate them to link their future destiny with the security forces, and in connection with the approaching presidential elections of the Russian Federation, they should also conduct indirect agitation in the interests of the ruling party United Russia and the Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin. From the message of the Center for National Resistance.
Participants in Russia's war against Ukraine, including former prisoners, are offered to teach history, physical education and basics of life safety. They are actively going to schools with lectures on patriotism. In February, Russian regional media reported that so-called lessons in courage were held in at least 40 regions of Russia. According to experts, school directors cannot prevent criminals from reaching children, as the consequences for both teachers and parents can be very unpleasant.
On
the one hand, this is happening en masse. On the other hand, in terms of implementation, it is still organized at the level of individual regions or individual cities. There is a repressive mechanism working, the risk of punishment high, and it may be heavy, nobody knows. It may be an administrative offense with termination of parental rights, or it may be a criminal case for deceasing the army.
The methods of education of these so-called teachers are also inappropriate. Victoria, a resident of Novosibirsk, said that her 10-year-old son was beaten up by a participant of Russia's war against Ukraine at the Children's Military Sports Center Alpha. The child returned from the class with bruises on his face and hands. Now the boy is in hospital. The warrant officer himself claims the child hit a log.
It may seem that at this moment you can already realize that something wrong has happened. He explains to the parents that he isn't on holidays and that parents were warned about that. He has a lot of experience in raising children and he knows better what's necessary.
From the March 1st, 2024, members of the so-called special military operation can take part in Kremlin's new personnel program Time of Heroes, which Putin announced in the Federal Assembly. Russian military personnel will be trained to work in state, municipal authorities and also in state campaigns, which exactly is not specified. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.